Hello and welcome to the Notts TV debate. We're all about the news and the events that affect you here in Notts, and giving their views is another illustrious and local panel. Claire Bicknell runs a business networking company. Darren Bicknell is a retired cricketer and chief executive of the Beaver Cricket and Countryside Trust. And Lisa Douglas runs Things to Do in Notts and is a landlady as well. Welcome one and all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You two know each other, right?
Vaguely.
Yeah, kind of.
Husband and wife. And we should say as well, it's your anniversary as we sit here today as well. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
What a way to spend it.
Absolutely. Who said romance is dead?
Well, certainly not me.
I think it's struggling.
And Lisa, how was Christmas and New Year in the trade?
It was busy, not as busy as last year, but I don't know whether that's a sign of the times or illness or whatever, but it was okay. We can't complain. We're still in business. So
all right, good.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll touch on hospitality as we chat on through the show. Firstly, let's talk about New Year's resolutions. Are they worthwhile? About half of us make New Year's resolutions. Only about 1 in 4 people actually stay committed to them after just 30 days. So are you a resolutioner, Claire?
I'd say generally not, but this year I am. Last year was a bad year as regards sort of weight and fitness, so this year needs to be a good year for that, because my stepdaughter, my youngest stepdaughter, is getting married later in the year, and I need to find myself a posh frock to get into, so that's the goal.
Right. How are you doing the fitness thing? You've made the resolution.
Yes, absolutely.
And we'll deal with the rest in April.
Yes, implementation. No, so serious dog walking, as you know, we have dogs, so that's good. But I do enjoy cycling, so I was hoping that actually the weather would be a whole lot warmer and less windy to be able to do some cycling. I haven't told you this. But I am,
here we go.
I am contemplating, and it's got no further than that just yet, of doing a little bit of running. And my mantra has always been, not to run. You only run if you're trying to catch a bus. And actually, I did have to run to catch a bus a couple of months ago, heels as well. The driver very kindly waited for me. It's lucky that there's a set fare, because there was no way I had any breath to be able to say where it was that I needed to go. So that I think would just be round the block and under cover of darkness.
Couch to 5k is good.
So I'm told.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit too far. Couch to front door, I think, is my limit at the moment.
I must say, Claire, you're not giving positive vibes about the running thing.
No.
Sounds like you need a pep talk, Darren.
I'm kind of staggered to even hear the idea that she might consider doing some running, because we've known each other a while now, and running's never been a thing.
It's never been a thing.
Never been a thing. And if I'm totally honest, I don't think it will be a thing. I think you need to find a better solution.
Well, we're pretty good sort of playing sport together. We're quite competitive. But he's got dodgy hips now, so all the things that I would like to play.
Like I say, happy anniversary.
We were discussing, you know, we've been watching the darts, and you've got your walk-on music and all the rest of it, and just passing in conversation, we said, what's your walk-on music? And apparently it's titanium, and this is probably because that's how he's held together.
30% titanium.
Anything else you'd like to out?
I was going to say, welcome along. This is a safe space.
Yeah.
Who for?
Mainly Claire. What about you, Darren? Are you making resolutions?
No.
Do you do that? Not at all.
No, I never have. I don't think, and I don't think I will. I've got a feeling if I did, they wouldn't last very long. So
I can help with some pointers if you'd like.
I'm sure. I'm sure. No, I don't think I will be. If I'm totally honest, no, because I don't think I would keep to them. So I don't see the point.
Is that? I mean, this is a bit like what Claire was talking about there, in that we kind of set ourselves up to fail in a way, don't we? By making, I know people that make several resolutions, and I think just Fine, if you want to make one or two, but if you make a whole long list, you're never going to keep them all, are you?
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think if you're going to set yourself something, you need to set something that's quite achievable. I personally, and you can work towards that. I think if you set the bar too high, it's doomed to fail predominantly. So I don't bother. No, I'm quite comfortable where I am, and each day comes with a new challenge, and you kind of look to work through them as they come, and physical.
Yeah,
health.
easy come, easy go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right. Lisa, what about you? Have you made any?
No, absolutely not. Haven't even thought
None?
about it, to be honest. We're doing dry January, which is a bit weird.
I was going to
owning
say
a bar.
working in a pub.
Yeah, but we do have lots of non-alcoholic things, drinks
Okay.
that you can have.
Good
So,
plug.
yeah, but that's more of a kind of a weight thing, really. Yeah.
Yeah, good plug.
Thanks. I've got plenty more of those. Where that's come from.
I'm doing a dry January event, and it's tasting dry white wine, dry red wine,
Oh, really?
dry fizz. Yeah, which is my take on a dry January.
Yeah.
Oh, I was interested actually. There was various social media outlets putting out yesterday that this dry January was dragging on a bit. And that was on the 1st of January, which I thought was genius.
Have you never made resolutions, Lisa, or is this?
I probably have when I was young and foolish, and no, I've never stuck to anything. So I kind of have a start how we mean to go on kind of list, but that's more to do with the business really, of how things are going to go this year, but whether or not they'll work out, no idea.
Right.
But no, I don't have any resolutions.
Okay.
Right.
What about things that you want more and less of in 2025?
More
Why don't you go-
holidays,
more
more
holidays.
customers.
Yes.
Oh gosh, what else? I haven't really. I don't know. I haven't really
What
had
do you
a
want
chance
less
to
of?
think.
What was a bit too much in 2024? Not just for you, but in life generally.
I don't know really. Let me have a think about that.
Okay.
Let me have a think.
Yeah. I want more niceness.
Oh well, yeah.
More
It'd be nice
niceness.
if people were nicer to each other, wouldn't
I
it?
thought, I think so.
Yeah.
Bring back not the horrible stuff with COVID, but the nice things that
Yeah.
came out. People were looking out for each other and being nice. Darren, what do you want more and less of?
No, I'd quite happy to go with you on that, a bit more niceness. I think the thing that frustrates me a huge amount, and we see it a lot through social media and the media as a whole, is all this sort of sensationalism of things and of people, and I think at times we go looking for the bad things in people. In all that we do, I notice it on TV when people are interviewing people. I know the media has a desire to hold people to account, but at times it feels like they're just pushing to try and get people to make a mistake rather than trying to generate the good stuff out of people. And that's something for me that I kind of really don't enjoy. I think it's a really tough thing to watch. So
Okay.
I agree. I think the whole world would be a lot nicer if people look for the good things.
Yeah.
Oh, and there is one more thing. I'd like
Cool.
people to pay their bills on time.
Okay.
I have this little thing about small businesses. Any business, when you get your invoice, pay your invoice, done, move on. If everybody paid their bills on time, the whole world would go round and much better. There you
Okay.
go.
All right.
That's mine.
Fair point. I thought you were going to name names there, and I thought, oh my goodness me. And by the way, in part 2 of the show, I'm going to be holding Darren to account, and I'm going to. Claire, what about you? What do you want more and less of?
Probably exactly the same as Lisa and Darren has said. More customers, more money, more holidays. Absolutely. Yes, wouldn't it be lovely if people were nicer to each other? So I can't think of anything, and I know I've had probably 2 or 3 minutes to think of something, but I can't think of anything more than that really. I think we just roll with the punches, don't you, when you're running a business, and just to be able to get through each experience, each
have to, don't you?
obstacle that comes
Yeah.
to your way, you're sort of thinking, I'd rather less of that, thanks very much. But more resilience, I think, is what I'd like.
For you or for?
Yeah, for me, but for people in general, we watched Strictly, I don't know if you did, amazed, absolutely gobsmacked at Chris, who won. Being blind, I mean, we're not great at dancing, are we?
Certainly not.
And we can see. So to be able to do that and showing what you can overcome, and I think how do you do this? We're saying on one hand, be kind, but then help people to achieve, as opposed to saying, oh, they're there, you know, you're not able to. We saw on Breakfast TV, I was watching the women's Paralympic, well, not Paralympic, but disability football playing in a World Cup. And that to me was phenomenal. You know, playing football with one leg or one arm or something like that on crutches. But my goodness, could they do sport, and sort of overcoming and achieving was good.
So maybe watching people like that, admiring them, but then actually acting on some of what we see.
I can remember last summer or the summer before when it was really hot. So it wasn't this last summer, was it? And
tell you what, hold that thought.
Okay.
Hold that thought, because we'll come back in just a few moments' time and talk some more on the Notts TV debates right here next. Hello and welcome back to the Notts TV debate. I'm Mark Denison, joined by Claire and Darren Bicknell. Lisa Douglas with me in the studio as well. Claire, sorry, I rudely interrupted you just before the break. We were talking about taking inspiration from people we see on TV and things like that.
Yeah, well, I was walking the dog. It was a hot day, and there was a hill in front of me, and I thought, should we just turn around and go back again? And
the dog said no.
Well, there was a lady who's coming down the hill who was walking her dog, but she was on crutches and she'd obviously had a leg amputated above the knee. And I did think, golly, if she can do it, I think I should as well. So, yes.
It is a good point, because like you were saying before, we see all these inspirational people on TV and in real life, and sometimes we do think, oh yeah, they're great, and then we just carry on with our lives rather than thinking, so what can I do that might in some way replicate that?
I may not be that great, but you know, small gains.
Yeah. Small gains.
Let's talk about that in
small
sport.
gains in 25. Didn't quite rhyme, but you know,
we'll work on it.
Time to thrive in 25.
Very good.
Yeah. You're welcome.
You get a career in this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Darren. Right, shall we talk about Sir Keir Starmer? Have you already lost faith in Sir Keir Starmer? And we'll talk about the situation here in Nottinghamshire as well, with Broxtowe Independence as well, a bit of a breakaway there. Where are we? About 6 months into the new government. What are we making of Sir Keir's progress so far? Lisa?
Well, I haven't lost faith in him. I didn't have any at the beginning, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I think many people could see the way it was going to go. And as we were talking earlier, we said, you know, Labour pretty much got in by default and not through the majority of people voting for them. So it's not looking good so far, is it really? And yes, they may have had a bit of a mess to clear up, but I think we're all sick about hearing of the £22 billion black hole and how it's all the Conservatives' fault. They need to get over that now and move on and you know, sort the country out, really.
I suppose that's, a lot of people will say that's their big kind of challenge, isn't it? How long can you keep blaming the previous administration for? Do you think maybe a new year is the time to turn over that new leaf? And
oh, I wish they would. Wouldn't it be lovely if they would, and they could say, I mean, I watch the House, you know, the Commons, and yes, it's quite entertaining sometimes, but it's also very frustrating because it's just like one big pantomime, and you think you're wasting so much time here just having a go at each other and coming out with the pre-prepared lines in answers to the questions, and it just doesn't seem to be getting anything done. And then we're all sitting here taking the brunt of these decisions that they're making, and it's frustrating and irritating, and I just feel like sometimes they need to all just grow up a bit.
what do you think Keir Starmer and Labour have got particularly wrong? What are they doing that's winding you up?
Oh, well, you know, full disclosure here, my children were at private school, my daughter's still there.
Okay.
The VAT on the private school fees is hitting a lot of people hard. Not everybody that sends their children to private school is a multimillionaire, and not all independent schools are Eton and Harrow, and there's a lot of SEN kids that's going to be affected by this VAT increase. And it really, it's some people are just, a lot of people I know scrape by to send their children to independent school for various reasons. My daughter couldn't get into a local school, so we sent her to the girls' high school. And you know, that was the reason we sent her there, because there were no local schools available in 2008 for her to go to.
The government would say, because there's no one here from the government, they would say that this is a way to raise money for the mainstream education system.
Well, can I come back in a couple of years' time and we'll see how much money they've actually raised, and where all that money that they said is definitely going into state schools. Let's see how much of it's actually gone, and let's see what difference it's made. Because being envious of people that are trying to, you know, the people that have decided to take the children out of state education, pay for them to go, that's my choice. That's my choice.
And do you think that's what it is? You think this is the politics of envy?
I believe it is, yeah.
Right.
I absolutely believe with Bridget Phillipson it is the politics of envy, and I don't think it's a good policy. I think people should be able to make a choice. If you want to spend your money on expensive holidays, that's fine. If you want to pay for your children to go to independent school, surely that's fine as well.
Okay.
So
they're your thoughts. You're entitled to them, of course.
Yeah.
Claire, what do you think of, if this was a report card, what would you be writing for Sir Keir after 6 months?
I'll take the politics out of it.
Small businesses are the backbone of the economy. We're able to move much quicker than large corporations. We're able to adapt. And actually, there are more small businesses within the economy than there are large ones. Actually, we need the support, but to be lumped in that brand of, you know, you're a business owner, so therefore A, you don't work, which I find very offensive, and B, you've got a lot of money, doesn't sit well with me. Whereas we've had in previous budgets, you've got the tax position of corporations like Amazon, etc., that are able to place themselves geographically, which allows them to get out of paying higher taxes. The smaller businesses are now appear to be bearing the brunt of financing the running of the country.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Labour's made a lot of being the party of business and small business. And then, I can see Lisa shaking her head already. And then when the budget came along, there were a few things in the budget where people say, hang on a minute, now small businesses have got to pick up a tab for X, Y, Z. I just wonder what they need to do then, and can they try and repair that? Because the budget's been and gone. And some of those measures are yet to come in, aren't they?
They are. We were talking earlier about the minimum wage and things like that. And I think before this budget, the last budget that the Conservatives have brought in, I think that they'd reduced minimum wage or national insurance, I can't remember which one. So it's actually only gone up a small amount in comparison. But what they haven't taken into account is that small businesses will have made their projections from that previous budget to get through. So to have something hiked up immediately has a huge impact. I was talking to quite a large organisation on the impact of the national insurance charges, and they said that they got the money that was going to be incurred for the NIC, but that was what they had planned on giving their employees as a pay rise. So,
and quite a lot of people are saying this won't be a pay rise, and we'll pass it on to our customers as well, which is all of us. Darren, what would you say about Keir Starmer so far?
Well, listen, I'm probably a very similar situation to Lisa. I think they got in because of the mess that the Conservatives have made. And the fact that Conservatives have been in power for a very long time, I think a lot of our younger people have never known anything different, so they wanted a change. And I think the change came because they were the only other option. So I was never a fan of them. I think I'm very tired now of them saying that all they're doing is picking up the pieces from what was left to them before. I think they do need to get over themselves, and they now need to start to show what they are genuinely doing. It concerns me that the first thing they did was bumped up all the pay rises for all the unions, which of course are their big sort of support base historically, and they've made some policy decisions which are affecting people that are there to help themselves. You know, in other words, you know, we talked earlier about the schools, you know, people that can afford to go to schools, and they don't have to be rich people to be able to afford to go to schools, are doing it because they're trying to better themselves. And, you know, the fact that Labour are targeting people that have done that, and the businesses, the small businesses that you all work in, you know, that are trying so hard to make ends meet and to make a profit, the target seems to be on those people rather than the people that don't particularly want to help themselves and are quite happy to go with the flow.
Because you mentioned the trade unions there. I mean, again, the government would say, and have said, we have now resolved pay disputes that have been rumbling on for years and years and years that the Tories just didn't deal with, and they wouldn't sit down and negotiate with the doctors, the nurses and whatever else. At least the government have sorted those.
And that's commendable, but we can all resolve a dispute by throwing more money than you need at them.
Isn't there
There's more trade strikes, aren't there?
rail strikes coming?
Yeah.
Is that the managers or something? Or there's I'm sure there's going to be more.
There's
Yeah,
certainly more
that's
disputes being talked about. So it's not. I'm not saying they're all dealt
I think
with,
the
but
fact that they've settled on some areas is just opening the floodgates to all the other areas to say, well, hang on, if they're getting looked after, well, hang on, where's me? So listen, I'm not going to sit here and say it's an easy situation to manage, and that would be one of the reasons why I wouldn't be a politician. There'll be a few others, but certainly I wouldn't want to try and work through the malaise or the mess that everything is. And you know, life is difficult. You know, there's no two ways about it. You know, life is difficult, but it's always been difficult. I think it's, you know, we've always had to find ways. I read a good book actually not so long ago by Ken Clarke, who was MP for these parts, who I know through cricket, and Ken was one of the most respected sort of politicians, and he had a lovely line, and I am absolutely going to mess this line up, but he said politicians used to be in the job because of what they believed in. Now politicians are in a job to stay in a job.
interesting.
And I was thought, and he refers back to Margaret Thatcher. And Margaret Thatcher, for whether people liked her or didn't like her, she was absolutely convinced by what she wanted and how she was going to go, and she wasn't going to be swayed. It was the famous line, wasn't there? You know, this lady's not for turning.
Yeah.
You know, but she was so determined to do what she felt was right, not listening to the outside noise. Whereas, dare I say it, I think that politicians and people in these positions now are doing whatever they can to stay in the job.
Yeah, all right. We will come back and talk some more politics, but the weather and public transport as well on the Notts TV debate next. Hello and welcome back to the Notts TV debate. I'm Mark Denison, joined by Claire and Darren Bicknell. Lisa Douglas here with me as well. Just before the break, we were talking about Sir Keir Starmer, and it's fair to say, I think, judging by your responses, could do better, is what we were...
4 out of 10, I think.
4 out of 10, my goodness me.
Well, I'm trying to be generous. It's, you know,
He's only 6 months in, Lisa. Give him time. Anyway, staying with politics, there has been locally the story of the 20 Labour councillors who've left the party. This is in Broxtowe over Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. They're not happy either. They said they were against plans for super councils, amongst other things. Fair to say some of them have had beef with Labour for quite some time. I just wonder what you all think of the direction of travel, you know, not just in Broxtowe, Nottingham City Council in all kinds of financial mess as well. Where are we headed this year, Claire, do you think?
Well, you've been watching the repeats of Dad's Army. In the words of Fraser, we're doomed. Goodness knows.
More stability in 2025.
That
would you
be
like
nice.
that?
That would be nice,
Yeah.
yes. And I'll go back to resilience.
For
a bit
them.
more resilience from them and actual common sense. Look at what they have, what they need to do, and do it. We were talking about, you know, running a business and the blaming the previous people. In business, there are always obstacles. There are always difficulties that you need to overcome. You find a way. You do find a way. You can't just keep on doing the same thing that doesn't work. So I know it's easy to say, but I'm sure that you and I have both been in that situation where something has gone wrong that has derailed your plans, what you wanted to do, and you find a way. And just using common sense is...
More common sense in 2025.
Yes.
I know it doesn't rhyme, but, you know,
No,
let's have more
I'll
of that.
go with that one.
Darren, what do you make? You know, this is local politics. I know some people just think, oh, you know, local politics. There is a lot going on, not just with the city council. There's talk of super councils as well. Maybe that's why these councillors aren't that happy. It's like turkeys voting for Christmas. What do you think?
Oh, listen, I think the whole thing ultimately comes back to leadership, you know, and, you know, a strong, committed leader that has a clear idea will have people follow them that believe in what he says. I don't get that feeling, and you hear all the unrest from all these different areas. It just doesn't strike me that they have an idea and a clear plan as to what they want to do, and they're flip-flopping between various things to try and find public support where they can. I just think, going back to the previous quote about that Ken Clark made, you know, and Margaret Thatcher back in the day, she had an absolute plan as to what she wanted, and if people didn't want to go with her, that's fine, go. But they need to have a clear plan for somebody to follow, for people to follow, and you know, and then there's a bit more unity between them all as well. I mean, you know, the councils, I appreciate that the councils have a difficult role, but I find it quite staggering how so many of them are bankrupt when it's their money to manage. You know, so the fact that they've managed to bankrupt themselves tells me there's a distinct lack of leadership and strong leadership, you know, which has mismanaged their money. Any small business, and all three of us run an organisation, you know, if you don't have the money in your business, you can't do all the things you want to do. So don't do the things that you can't do.
Again, I suppose the City Council would say, look, you know, it's been the same party in power in Nottingham for, I don't know how many years, but a long time. People keep electing them. So they're there because people have put them there at the end of the day.
Listen, it's a tough one to answer. I think sometimes the people will it's better the devil you know as well. You know, there are some quite strong characters. You know, there are some strong characters locally. You know, Ken Clark obviously is now not part of it, but he was an incredibly strong character. So I think people would always have voted him in until the time that he's kind of retired. And I suspect there are various others. I'm not that au fait with local politics as to know who the characters are, but I suspect there are some characters in certain areas that people will just always vote for because they know them, and like I say, it's probably better the devil you know.
Lisa, I mean, as someone that runs businesses within the city as well, what do you make of how not just the city council, but politics locally is going?
Well, again, I don't tend to spend that much time looking at local politics. I'm more interested in the bigger picture, but which is perhaps isn't the best thing to do. But I feel a bit helpless really sometimes, because I feel that no matter who I vote for, and the same people just get in year after year after year. How many actual business people are involved in running the council? Maybe they need to reach out and ask people that have actually run their own businesses as to what the best ways forward are. Because it seems to me that there's a lot of people that are leading councils that perhaps don't have the experience, or, I'm going to be perfectly blunt, maybe shouldn't be. And I agree with you. I think it's probably an incredibly difficult job, and they have had the funding cut down by the government. But like you say, it just seems to be mad decision after mad decision, and what we as the local people who are paying our council tax, we just don't seem to have any say in what's going on, and it's worrying, really.
Well, I suppose every 4 years you do, but
it just well,
But you're only reacting to that situation at that time. In business, we have access to be able to engage with experts, coaches, non-exec directors, who have an expertise within a business that you can engage with them on a consultancy basis for a period of time that will help you. So is that not available to councils?
It's an interesting idea to have more of a kind of business input into, particularly financial management.
Well, they are running a business at the end of the day, aren't
Absolutely.
they?
There's project management.
In lots of ways, the parallels are there.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about honours?
Oh, go on then.
Yeah. Which local politicians know? How relevant is the honours system? This is a fairly new year thing as well, of course, with certain people getting honours. I don't know, on New Year's Day, it tends to come out on New Year's Eve, doesn't it, where you see the list of people. Do you think, oh yes, they really deserve an honour? Or do you think, A, who are they? And B, how and why? So are there examples? So Stephen Fry, you might think, well, there's someone that's done an awful lot of awareness, charity work and whatever. But then you might look at, for example, at Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, and think, why? So is it time just to get rid of the honours system? Darren?
Possibly. It is time. I have a bit of a bugbear with some of these, the honours. And the reason why I say that is I think some of these honours are incredibly well deserved. People are doing some incredible stuff out there that's over and above their day-to-day lifestyle living job. You could think of, and he didn't get one, Kevin Sinfield. We're all going to talk about Kevin Sinfield.
Yeah.
He is doing stuff. He has a day job, and he's doing all this other fundraising stuff, which is over and above his day job. I have a problem. I do generally have a problem that people that are giving honours for doing their job. I have a slight issue with sportsmen at times, and I'm a West Ham fan. That may or may not go up or down in people's estimation, but West Ham have had, in David Moyes, the ex-manager, has just received an honour, and good on him, but he's got it for doing his job. I just think the honours should be for people that are going over and above their daily job to do something very, very special to support either your community or the country or other people.
Yeah.
I don't know that people should be getting things for just doing their job.
Interesting. Gareth Southgate, he got an honour, didn't he?
Yeah.
For doing well, but we didn't win anything.
Don't get me wrong.
So
there may be some stories behind Gareth Southgate. He maybe is doing a huge amount of work for charity that perhaps we don't know about. But he was given a knighthood for his services to English football. But he's doing his job.
Yeah.
So personally, I'm not sure that is the right way to go with an honour.
Interesting. Lisa, what are your thoughts on honours?
Well, there's not nearly enough arguing between this panel, is there? Because I think I can weigh in. It's not really a debate, is it?
Don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
We do all that at home.
Go on then, Lady Douglas.
No, I don't. You can buy an honour though. I could become a lady by buying one, apparently, for myself. Apparently you can.
Do it. Please do it.
I think there's a few that have.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think people should, if there's so many people doing so much good in this country that are not recognised for doing good, and I think they should be. And I think there's a lot of jobs for the boys goes on, and people are getting awards and becoming sirs and stuff. Sadiq Khan is one, whether you like him or not. I don't know. It's the thing about social media and the news. You never really hear about the good that people do. You just hear about how bad it is in London, and it just seems to me that he's got that because of who he is and how long he's been in the job. But totally agree with you. It should be more deserving people, I believe.
So people that, as you were saying before, Darren, people that go above and beyond. It's interesting with the Kevin Sinfield thing, because I was hearing some people saying, well, look, he doesn't do it for the glory, for the recognition. He does it for those causes. But you could apply that to so many other people as well.
The other thing with Kevin Sinfield, there are a lot of people who have turned down honours because they maybe don't agree with it, as we've discussed. We don't know that he hasn't turned that down, do we?
That's true. And again, hold that thought. I know I've done this before. Hold that thought.
Is it just me?
Not you at all. We're coming back in just a moment. We'll talk about the weather. Are we all going a bit soft? That is next. Welcome back to the Notts TV debate. I'm Mark Denison, joined by Claire and Darren Bicknell. Lisa Douglas with me in the studio as well. Just before the break, we were talking about honours. And maybe Kevin Sinfield, we don't know, he might have been offered one and turned it down. We were just looking, actually, and John Lennon famously declined an honour. David Bowie, Michael Sheen as well. And did you know Nigella Lawson as well was once offered an honour but said no, thank you very much indeed. Would you take one, Claire?
Yeah.
I'm not here, look. Let me just, fine. Oh look, have a CB.
A CBB.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Now they're falling out. Right, shall we talk about the weather? And whether or not,
We are British.
Whether or not, well, exactly. I thought, what can we talk about early January? The weather. A snow and ice warning was issued by the Met Office for Nottinghamshire early January. North of the border, Hogmanay celebrations were called off less than 24 hours before the start of the event. I mean, weather warnings, almost a daily event, aren't they? And it's whether we now paying attention to that or whether I can't stop saying it. Anyway, are we all getting a bit too soft, Claire?
Well, is it coming back to resilience again, or is it more serious than that and the weather is becoming worse because of climate change and things like that? I was watching The Holiday just before Christmas, as you do.
Oh, my wife and daughter must have watched that about 25 times.
Absolutely. And there is nothing wrong with that. But
Did they have weather warnings in that film?
Well, I feel they should have done, because that car, admittedly, German engineering, very good with that kind of thing, on the snow as the taxi driver picked her up, etc., etc. But then running back through the fields and that slippy, snowy, icy road with heels like that, how did she do it? That's
Claire, you do know it's a film. That's not real life.
Was it real snow?
Probably
Please
not.
don't.
Did you know
tell
that
me.
cottage is not a real cottage as well? That was built.
You're just screwing in the whole effect for her now. Christmas
I can
is
tell you now,
ruined.
Christmas has been and gone.
Ebenezer Scrooge over
I'm
here.
going to
Yeah,
have
that's
to
right.
stick with Love Actually now.
No, they looked around for a cottage and they
Yeah.
couldn't find one, so they thought, we'll
AI
build
it.
one. Yeah. Well, there we are. Okay.
Yes, that's my
So
comment on
somehow
weather.
we've gone from weather warnings
Sorry about
to the
that.
holiday. No, it's fine. Darren, because from a sport point of view, do you ever kind of?
Well, as an ex-cricketer, we used to enjoy the rain.
Yeah.
We used
More
to enjoy,
sandwiches.
Yeah, more sandwiches, a game of cards, But listen, I think all through, ever since I've grown up, we've had periods of wet weather, we've had periods of cold weather and periods of hot weather. And it feels like the same. I'm not going to go into a debate about climate change. What I do know is that as a golfer, and as a very, very keen golfer, as my wife, we will set off an argument in a minute. We'll tell you, I enjoy my golf, and we are struggling madly with the weather. Our golf courses have never been wetter. So we are struggling, and we need to find some better solutions, and I think we now need to invest in some better drainage. But it just appears to be a theme that we are getting wetter. The country's getting wetter. We used to have lovely periods of cold. Obviously, we've got one today with the sort of snow and ice, but they seem to be very rare these days. So obviously things are changing, but We do make a big fuss out of the weather.
It does allow you to buy more golf kit.
It does allow me to buy more golf kit, but we do make a fuss about the weather. You know, I don't remember growing up when storms used to have a female name to them.
Well, I don't remember weather warning.
And quite
I
why
remember
a female name either at times. I think there probably is a
Well,
story,
there
but
are some male
I'm-
ones. I
I'm in
think they
trouble.
alternate, don't they?
I'm not sure.
Is
Yeah.
it alphabetical or something?
But we used to. Sorry if this is going to make me sound really middle-aged. I am, and that's just a point of fact. I remember the days when winter would be winter with snow, like
Yeah.
that at least. No weather warnings around with that. It was just
Which is
go
normal,
out,
wasn't
play on
it?
your bike.
As I say, I think we're all a similar age, and I can remember being at school. Our boiler never broke down. Did you ever get a snow day?
No.
I remember once we did. It was during one of the. Now we are sounding really old. One of the many strikes in the 70s, and there wasn't any oil for the school heating or something like that. So they sent us home for the afternoon, but that was it. So I mean, it's a serious point. You've been talking about resilience, Claire. But are we getting a little bit too soft? If we have to have a warning. I look at my phone, if I see a warning, I think, here we go, another warning. I don't think I'll pay attention to that. It winds me up.
Yeah, you just have to get on with it, don't you? I mean, it's okay if it snows, put appropriate clothing on and get out there and deal with
There's
it.
a great phrase, isn't there? There's no such thing as bad weather, it's bad choice of clothing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Can I also throw in common sense? I mean, if
Let's
it's
have more of that.
If it's dangerous, don't go out in it.
Yes.
Don't drive in it.
Let's have some more common sense. All right, that's the weather told. So do we need a social media ban? This is for children. An Australian-style social media ban for under 16s is highly unlikely. The Technology Secretary has now indicated. Who knew we had a Technology Secretary? We did. Anyway, growing calls.
The new government then. Well done then.
We knew we'd get some praise in the end, Claire. Growing calls for more controls on children's internet usage. We're all parents. We're all concerned about social media and the influence of social media. How do you think that would go down in your house, Claire, if your kids were told, Lisa? Claire's here. That's Darren. It's Lisa. I'm just trying to confuse you by saying, yes, Claire. And how about you, Lisa? How do you think that would go down in your house if you tried to say, no social media?
Well, my daughter's 16, so anything she doesn't agree with doesn't go down well in our house at the moment. But no, I mean, they spend their lives on. So I mean, she doesn't go on X or whatever it's called now. She's a TikToker, and Instagram, and probably other stuff that I have no idea what she's doing. But I think it's you do see kids younger and younger going on things, and social media, X in particular, is vile. I mean, I use it for business, but it is pretty horrible. There's a lot of really, and people, like you were saying earlier, anonymous people going on, spouting off all sorts of stuff, and it's horrible. So I think it really must be colouring children's minds, and it's not a good thing. And also, kids can't get away from social media. So if you were bullied at school, you go home. You can't get away from it now. It's just everywhere. And
from a
no
mental
escape.
health point of view, I think you touched on it earlier on, Darren, that kids, I think we all do this to a certain extent. We look at other people's posts and think, gosh, that's a perfect life. That's what I have to have. Yeah. And we're never really going to have that. So you can see how that feeds into mental health.
I tend to agree. I think there probably needs to be some better controls for our younger people, because like you say, they're all influenced and they all feel that they have to become this perfect kind of person, which none of us are. The whole thing with social media and a lot of the stuff now you just can't believe because it's all fake news as well, so that's becoming a big issue. But I'm just a firm believer, if you write something, you own it. And I just cannot for the life of me understand, and I know it's going to be about money and it's going to be about various things like that, but if you want to write something that's poisonous, you own it, and people will find you and they will hold you to task over what you've said. And if it's illegal, then you're going to pay the punishment. You know, if you want to write something, you believe it, you want to write it and stand behind it, well, that's up to you. You own it. I just can't for the life of me understand how people are allowed to go onto these places and to be able to write such things that are such poison, etc., and nobody can ever do anything about them.
That's the, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the social media companies taking more ownership of that and doing more, policing it better as well. Claire, what about you? What are your thoughts on social media?
You have TV channels for children. So I think that there could be, as a means of getting young children, because young children are now getting phones, tablets, pads, whatever, used to it and managing it and being taught how to use it, query it, in the same way that TV, like CBeebies, is an entertainment for children, but just getting them used to it and building up to it. So if there was a separate channel, admittedly for younger children, with the teenagers, you're never going to get them to still be looking at CBeebies, are you? But helping them to question what they're reading, who's put it there, why have they done it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. You know, it's that mum and dad are always right up to a certain point, and then you have reasoned debate, which all comes into education as well. So that again is ideal world.
And I think we talked a bit about children need to understand the consequences of being on social media and on posting things on social media. There's been a couple of high-profile cases. Obviously, the local referee that's been in trouble for posting a video, and you know, children, if they're posting videos of them doing something, you know, sometime during their life they might want to go for a job or an interview, and one of the first things that employers do is probably look through your social media, and if you've got stuff on there that's either controversial or difficult, you know, you're probably not going to get the job. So we need to educate our young people. There are consequences to doing some of these things these days.
Well, that's a point at which we will probably have to leave it. But thank you all for your insight and your honesty and your frank thoughts about the state of the world early this new year. Can I just say Happy New Year to you all? And thank you very much indeed. Happy anniversary as well, by the way.
Thank
you. Hope you have a lovely day and a decent 2025 as well. Thank you very much indeed. So thank you to Claire and Darren and Lisa. Thank you for watching as well. You can always catch up on our website and our YouTube channel as well. For now, goodbye.